Peter Röhrig. Peter Röhrig.
How come that most people hate conflicts? And that it seems to be really hard work to support clients in resolving them. Is mediation really so complex and annoying? Well, it can be, and it can't. Perhaps you heard the story of this big music record producer who called a mediator and asked, "Oh please, can you help me? I need someone to come straight away because you too are in the middle of recording their next album and they cannot agree on anything. The only thing they can agree on is that they would use a mediator, but no one is willing to pay. So, please, could you do it pro bono?" Oh, yeah, well.
The cabaret is full.
You can imagine the answer. Mediate. You can't possibly take such a one-sided case. John Kenyon told this story. He's a very experienced mediator, and you see, it can be really hard to be one. I want to share some experience I made working with people in conflicts. I'll introduce you to the wonderful world of conflicts, tell you some figures about conflicts in organizations, show you two real-life examples, one from a mediation and one from leadership training, and I share my findings with them. And I hope I'll find some encouraging words in the end for all those of you who are not yet working with conflicts. So let's start with my most important message. Generally, conflicts have a bad reputation, not only in organizations. They cost a lot of energy and they cost a lot of money. When we work with conflicts in a solution-focused way, we can do a lot for a better reputation of conflicts. We help not only to save energy, but also to use this energy as a powerful source of change. I used to work in conflict resolution because it was just part of my business. As a trainer, as a team coach, as an organizational developer. And to be true, I didn't like that conflict work very much. Actually, I thought my clients should pay me at least double the fee for all the crap I had to deal with. And I grew older and worked in many different fields with many different conflicts. And my perspective slowly changed. I started to see the world of conflicts as an interesting and very special world, with very peculiar rules, with people who interact different from people in other worlds. They usually interact in a very special conflict mode. Some examples. You will find in this world a lot of destructive interactions, like hindering somebody, like dominating, like damaging even. And you'll find people like this, with a very selective perspective, very focused on the other person, and generously overlooking their own contribution. You'll find a lot of black and white behavior, blaming other persons, belittling other persons. And the most interesting thing is the attitude towards change. Very strange. okay, as long as the other person goes ahead. These two politicians show how it works, huh? Like, please go ahead. No, you, please go ahead. Perhaps I'm for it, perhaps not. So I started to become more and more curious about the changes people made in conflicts, about their special ways of interacting and trying to solve problems that were sometimes very hard and sometimes impossible to solve, at least in their special conflict mode. Let me tell you some figures about the impact of conflicts in organizations. 10 to 15% of the working hours in each company are spent in conflict resolution, so it seems to be something quite normal. And for leaders, it's even more. 30 to 50% of the weekly work time for leaders are spent with conflicts and the impact of conflicts. And times absent because of fear and bullying in the workplace cost companies about 30 billion euros per year. All these figures come from a KPMG study about conflict costs from 2009. So it seems to be useful to find better ways to resolve existing conflicts and to prevent further escalation. And I have an example for you. Some years ago, I coached the 3 managing directors of a startup company for a while. They were impressively successful with their business, making millions right from the start, with big companies as clients and with a lot of highly qualified staff they could hire. And they had a lot of controversies from the very beginning. And their only explanation for this was, we are so different, the 3 of us, that as long as things go well, we perfectly complement each other. But as soon as we get into troubled water, we come into conflicts. So we had a few coaching sessions on that, and they led to more mutual appreciation of differences and as resources for the business, resources for their partnership. And there seemed to be much more resilience in controversies than before. Years later, all of a sudden, a conflict escalation happened. 2 of them had a heavy controversy at a jointly facilitated event. They tried to keep calm in public and went furious when in private. Both reported about some bad insults shouted out in that situation. The 3rd managing director tried to mediate, the female one, and that made it even worse. So the whole story ended in unbalancing the company's success. Staff was involved, either became party or became heavily annoyed. And it came to a severe loss of highly qualified staff, combined with a loss of clients. And in this deep crisis, they remembered the coaching sessions they had with me and asked me to mediate. I met with the 3 managing directors for an afternoon and an evening. And at that time, I had already elaborated on some effective practices in mediation that may be solution for us. Let's have a look. Of course, you know, every case is different. And the following things may help in similar situations to do something that Mark calls stretching. Stretching the wonderful world of the clients and conflicts in a useful way. Please take a look at some of my findings. As a mediator, I do not expect the conflict parties to change. And I explicitly assume that they know about the consequences of not changing. I slow the process sensibly down by leaving a lot of space for different perspectives. From your point of view, that's your point of view. It takes time. Everybody is acknowledged and seen. And I enjoy lulls and pauses in conversations when clients are thinking about good answers to very good questions. I acknowledge the different points of view with a special appreciation for all kinds of approaches to the problem, even if they turn out to be not very helpful. I explore joint interests and desired futures about an ideal world beyond the conflict. And I support the parties in finding resources in past, present, and future that could help to find a way out of the stuckness. And sometimes it's much easier for clients to find a small step towards the common goal than towards each other. I work with a lot of attention and calmness. What helps me is my ability to sustain silence, sustain stuckness, sustain perplexity, much longer than most of my clients. And they always get going at some point and try some tiny changes. The results of this mediation, this special one I talked about, were stunning. In one respect, they all regretted what had happened and found a way to redefine the emotional outburst as something that had been overdue, and they found an easy ritual to signal to each other early enough when they started to become angry again. And this worked, really worked. But they learned something else, and I think this is even more important. They had experienced that even in the biggest crisis, they kept their business going, and none of them had quit or hid away. So they started their business again from a new platform with more confidence. With less staff, they were forced to be more flexible, employing them in different fields with varying tasks. That was quite different to the highly specialized way they had deployed their staff before. And very soon it turned out that this was a much better business model. It cost much less energy and they still had a very good profit. Looking back, they appreciated the conflict and the following crisis as a great learning opportunity. They even started to integrate solution-focused ideas and tools in their work. So, when we work with conflicts in a solution-focused way, we can do a lot for a better reputation of conflicts. And we help not only to save energy, but also to use this energy as a powerful source of change. In my experience, it's very helpful to work in conflicts with solution-focused principles and tools, and even more helpful if these are combined with an attitude of holding a room in which everybody can, without a risk, discover and show their vulnerability. If you want to support people in heavy conflicts, you should take care that there is enough time for self-reflection. The calmness that results from this does you good and does your clients good. Meanwhile, I'm kind of a conflict addict. I embrace the power and energy of conflicting situations and enjoy a lot the great reliefs and successes that a resolved conflict brings, both on an individual and on an organizational level. Solution-focused mediation is one of the core competencies I facilitate in leadership trainings. It's something that leaders can learn and that they can practice, and which can make their lives much easier. I can tell that from my own experience as a leader. As a young man, I was a very successful science manager. And as a result from having a lot of research money and being able to hire many excellent scientists, I soon became a completely overwhelmed leader. I learned a lot from that. I learned about my possibilities, I learned about my limits, I learned about becoming and staying a good leader, especially in conflicts. And since then, one of my passions is to support leaders in challenging situations. And conflicts in organizations are very frequent challenges, so I do a lot of leadership training on that. And I call it conflict empowerment. We work on real cases from participants' everyday life, and I show them how to use solution-focused tools and principles in a professional way. And it works in many fields. 2 weeks ago, I worked with a group of leaders from a big opera house, from very different professions. Musicians, craftsmen, designers, administrative staff, managers. And they all had suffered a lot from long-lasting conflicts with and within their staff, especially among the artists. And the feedback I got from this course was very clear and positive. What all participants found very useful differences to traditional ways to handle conflict situations was that they didn't have to focus on the causes of the conflict, on the effects and emotions related to the conflict. Instead, they focused on the desired futures and the resources to get there. And that they no longer had to try to solve the conflict, but rather support the parties involved in finding steps towards the desired futures, which are in their responsibility. These are differences that we as seasoned solution-focused practitioners might find quite natural. But if you want to share our wisdom or knowledge, all the useful know-how solution-focused work can bring, we shouldn't believe that all this is self-evident. Focusing on these simple differences gives us a chance to support a lot of people in their everyday life and perhaps make this world a better place to live in. So, I hope I could share my confidence with you about how useful solution-focused thinking and working can be in conflicting situations. So please, go ahead. Welcome the next chance that the next conflict will bring to you. And you can be sure it will come. So good luck.